Right, welcome back to Migmatis Golf, everybody. Thanks for all of you that watched the previous video about this magical device that I am proud to have invented. This is my version of the plain board that is collapsible, allowing you to hit balls. So, this is the video you've all been waiting for, the one where I show you how to build this. And at the end of the video, you'll see some detailed plans on the measurements I used. Everything can be customized. Now, quick warning, these aren't architectural drawings, okay? It's just my handwriting, so be gentle in the comments. Before I go anywhere though, another pretty big YouTube channel called Be Better Golf commented on this video, and they commented how the only clip in the video is one of me hitting the ball but actually thinning it, and that is true. And as I explained to Brendan, who owns the channel, I was just really eager to get this video up. I hadn't posted in a while, so I just took some quick swings and I just loaded one that I thought was okay. And it's true, I didn't strike that ball very well. So I promised that I would upload some better footage of me actually striking a ball properly using this device. The main purpose of the device, obviously, is just to get the backswing plane as good as you can, let's put it that way, or stop you from making all the usual mistakes that amateurs make in the backswing. So the strike isn't really that important, although it would be nice if, you know, could also strike the ball well as well. But the main design is actually the quality of the backswing. But being able to make a quality backswing and still hit the ball. So most training aids, you know, the best ones in the world are the ones that you can actually practice with, hit real balls. So this does that. So anyway, let's not labor the point. I apologize for that video. I'm going to take some more now, probably slow-mo, so you can see better what goes on. And those will be straight after this intro, then the building video, then the plans at the end. And I hope you all go build one, and I hope it helps you out. And thanks again for watching. Give it a thumbs up. Here it is, the beginning of the build of the world's best takeaway training aid ever. Bar none, that's right. I have come up with this on my own. And this is the video about how to build it. This should help you out. So, as you can see, we have a 2x4 sheet of 1/2 inch plywood. This is another roughly 2x4. You can just get 2 of these. This is an offcut that I have. Because you're going to be cutting away so much of this guy, you don't technically need a 2x4. So you have an offcut of 1/2 inch. That will suffice. Otherwise, get yourselves 2 of these. Now, it doesn't really matter what kind of plywood you get, just 1/2 inch. I have tried this with 1/4 inch and it's not stable enough. It warps, it bends a bit. And 3/4 inch would just be way too... Ooh, we have a malfunction over here. It's windy. 3/4 inch is way too heavy. So 1/2 inch is perfect, and it gives you a bit of something to screw into. So as you can see, we have a 30-inch piano hinge there. So the dark brown bit is going to be my base, essentially. The birch plywood here is going to be my plane. You'll see. Here's a rough layout, but I will include a picture with very detailed plans for you to draw all this out on your plywood and make it simple. But we're basically going to attach the piano hinge roughly in this position here, and then we'll move on from there and you'll see what ensues. Moving on, we have attached the second piece of plywood to the piano hinge so that it forms an adjustable plane like that. I've only got a few screws in at the minute, but make sure you put screws in all of the holes. This is going to get a lot of abuse. And being 1/2 inch plywood, you don't want the screws to be longer than 1/2 inch. You really, on the bottom bit there, against the dark brown plywood, it doesn't really matter if they protrude onto the other side. In fact, that would kind of actually help with a bit of grip, which we will talk about later. But on this side, on the plain side, you don't want anything sticking out on this side. This is the side your shaft is going to ride up against. Okay, moving on. Now looking down at my pretty drawings here, we're going to cut out a bit of this plywood that is in the way. So this hashed bit here that you can see, basically that all gets cut out. This strip here remains, and I'll explain to you why afterwards, and this is roughly where the ball position is. But that's it. That's what we're going to cut out next with the jigsaw. We're also, if I flip this up, this hashed bit here, we're also going to cut that out, because if you imagine you're standing with your feet like this, if you're hitting a wedge, you don't want to be standing on that. So this is useless, this bit. We're going to cut that out. And we're also going to cut a bit out of the plane. Jigsaw, line, this is all getting cut out. Don't worry too much about the dimensions now. I will explain everything in a detailed plan. But basically we're going to cut this section out, this curved bit here. And also going to cut some of this out, and you'll see what it looks like after. If you're wondering how to get a nice progressive curve like this, you can freehand it, it doesn't really matter, but I just have a bit of dowel here. Use something bendy and then anchor it at one side and bend it like that, and you can draw out your line. Right, I gave you a bit of duff, Jen, because I told you, let me open this up. I told you we're going to cut out that whole hash mark there, but really that doesn't interfere with your feet at all, even for a pitching wedge. So I didn't see the point of cutting all of that out. It might actually help to stabilize the whole thing. But what I did do is, when it's folded down, I did cut out the bit there just to make it pretty. Okay, moving on. So when your playing board is lying flat with the piano hinge closed, I've cut out all of this flush with that side. So this is where the ball goes, multiple positions, and I'll explain that later. And this is the hitting area. And we are going to router all of the edges, but I'll explain why we're going to router these edges as well. You don't want to be like getting splinters and stuff handling all this. You don't have to router it. If you don't have a router, it's not going to make, you can sand the bevel on here. You can just leave it like that. Whatever you want to do. It's not that important, but just make it a bit nicer. We're going to router the edges. In my router, I have a chamfer bit. I'm going to set it, that focus, I'm going to set it like that, medium depth, protruding just less than 1/2 inch. And we're going to go around all the edges with that. Oh, scheisse. I have a little concrete block there holding this up, but you can see the effect, right? So we have an upright plane there, and then we have the hitting area. I've just quickly routed around these edges, mainly because I don't want to get splinters, but also on this kind of cutout around where the ball hitting area is. Once this plane is down and you're actually hitting the ball, I've chamfered this edge just so that if the hosel does hit here, it kind of like doesn't gouge into it, just kind of bounces off. Right, now we get to the really interesting bit. We get to the innovation of the project. So far, pretty basic, but the cool bit is coming up. For this bit, you're going to need to find yourself something like this. You could use a wooden dowel. That would be much simpler, but it wouldn't be as adjustable. So here I have some threaded rod with a, let's see if this will focus. Threaded rod with a wing nut on the end. Don't worry about these. These are just some connector bits that I have that are nice and smooth, so I'm using them, but you don't have to use this. So you would just have a wing nut and another nylon nut going here to act as a stop. Ideally, if you could find a wing nut, a nylon wing nut, so that it is adjustable, but it doesn't move freely on its own. And at this end, you don't have to have anything. I've just gone with one of these connectors and a bolt simply to round it off. But it doesn't matter. You can just have a piece of threaded rod. This is about 1/8 inch thick. You don't need more than that. You can go with larger if you want. It doesn't really matter. And about this length. What have we got? We've got about 12 inches, right? Something like that. You might need a little bit more, maybe 14 inches. Something like that, but it all depends on your body type, as you will see. Everything is variable. So I would say start with a piece of threaded rod. Let's call it something at least 18 inches long, and you can always cut it down, and get yourself one nylon wing nut, and you will see how easy it is to make this mechanism. Now, looky here, my lovelies, I have placed my 6-iron. So I've taken my stance, placed my 6-iron on the plane, and adjusted it with a brick or something so that the plane matches my 6-iron. Little protractor down here, or like an angle measurement tool, just to tell me what the actual angle is, and hopefully that coincides with the lie angle of my 6-iron. But like I said, all body types are different. People customize their clubs, and some people stand further away from the ball, whatever. Anyway, this training aid is designed for a 6-iron, but it can be adapted for any iron. In fact, I'll show you how it can actually be used with multiple irons in a training session, just by changing the angle simply by where we place our rod. So here we go. Take your stance, place your club against the plane, and then figure out what that angle is. We have, not going to focus on that thing, is it? But I have, that's saying about 50 degrees. About 50 degrees is what I have. Now for the ingenious part. Let it focus. So you're going to grab your rod. You're going to come in about 1 inch from end of your board, and you're going to place it up like that, and you're going to draw a Sharpie line on either side of your rod. Make sure you have at least 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch of shaft sitting above the plane, just like this. Can you see that? And we're going to mark a Sharpie with a Sharpie on either side, and we're actually going to cut that out with a jigsaw. We're going to make a little notch in the plywood with our jigsaw. Now, while I'm here, it's important to explain why I made this adjustable, because if you can imagine, if I change the angle, if I go to like wedges or something, then wherever this sits, the notch is going to be somewhere different. You can either vary the plane by creating a whole bunch of notches here and keeping this the same, or you could have one notch up here and create a series of holes in here that this end is going to sit into. So that would be a 6 iron. If you want something a bit more upright, you might move it to here. If you wanted something a bit more laid down, then you might create another notch here for a longer iron. This can be varied to your heart is content. But whatever you're doing, whatever you're using, you must make sure that at least 1/2 inch of the end of your rod is sticking up above the plane, and you'll see why in a minute. Now then, that end is lodged in that little hole. That is sticking up a bit above the plane. The wing nut is stopping the plane falling down, and the little notch, you can see there, allows the threaded rod just to sit in it. And if by magic I remove the brick holding it up, ta-da! It holds up on itself. See that? Now we're going to demonstrate the beauty of the world's greatest backswing training aid. Unless you're a complete ding-dong, you've probably figured out what this does. But look at this. I'm going to take my stance, holding onto the club. The ball would be about there. And as I take my backswing, the shaft rides nicely on the plane. Then it gets to there, where my little shaft is, and it carries on. Fail. Ba-bong! And the plane falls down. What does this mean? This means that I can practice and still hit balls. Why? Because in any good swing, the downswing plane, let me just set this back up again. In any good swing, the downswing plane is a fraction shallower than the takeaway. The longer the club, even the more pronounced that is. If this plane board was to stay up, then as you came down, you might go on the inside of it or hit the top of it. And it's very, very off-putting when you are trying to hit balls. You just think you're going to hit it. You've probably seen a lot of coaches that have alignment sticks in the ground, right? And the goal is to kind of like take the club outside the shaft or the alignment stick on the way back and then loop it inside. But you always get the feeling that you're going to hit those alignment sticks. But with this, you know, as soon as you clip that rod, the plane's going to lie down and you can be as shallow as you want. Now, one more feature. What about this distance here? Why have I created this distance? That's because in a good swing, as you take the shaft back, there's a little bit of wrist hinge that starts immediately. Little bit. If I was to just drag this along the floor, I'd hit that. Now, if you are a dragger, and some people are, not to worry, you can move the ball up a bit and you will naturally clear that. And you will still hit that guy over there. So this allows for a bit of everything. You can make this cutout deeper if you want. You can, all of this can be customized. But there you go. Actually, I need to make that, this is a bit stiff, so this little recess here, let me see if it focuses. This is my second prototype. There's a little recess here. Make sure that, see how my wing nut is just sitting inside it there? And so it was wedged. Make sure this recess is wide enough, but not so wide that the wing nut can lodge into it. If the wing nut can lodge into it, then it's going to get stuck. But if I just place the wing nut like this, kind of in that direction, then it's not really a problem. Comes off straight away. Down you come. Strike the ball through. Now there's a couple of extra little bits that we are going to do so that you can use this at the range or at home with a mat like me, or you can use it on grass as well. And I'll show you what those are now. Get yourself a drill bit about the same diameter as a golf tee and drill yourself some random holes in this base plate here, so that when you go to a range or your course that has grass, you can put some tees through those holes to pin this thing down to the ground to stop it moving kind of back and forth, back and forward and left to right. What you can also do is, remember this is 1/2 inch thick, so what you can also do, which I recommend, I did it on the first prototype, is underneath the middle area here, I drilled in some screws that are 5/8. They're 5/8 inch screws, and bearing in mind this is 1/2 inch, they just protrude about 1/8. Pointy little tips protrude on the other side 1/8, and it really grips into this kind of carpet and stops it sliding around. So you can do that, and you can drill the holes for the T-pegs, and then this thing will be able to be used pretty much anywhere. Exciting stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video. Just going to put on the screen now the detailed plans of the dimensions for this thing, and you can go build yourself one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. Give it a thumbs up. All that kind of stuff.